Welcome back again to the Wisdom of Womanhood podcast. Thank you for joining us in this journey. We are day 6 after launching, and it feels good. And the feedback we've been getting is already incredible. So, thank you for coming back and spending this time with us. I am Showy, and beautiful Pippa is here with me, as always.
As always. And just to let you know, I've got a bit of a cough, guys. So if you see me just leaning in, I'm muting myself so I don't cough and splutter into my mic. So just to let you know, I have my water. And it's funny because we've actually recording now on a Tuesday, and we normally record on a Monday. And the topic today came up for me yesterday with having to reschedule because I didn't feel well, and it kind of ties into our podcast topic today. And it just feels like it's the right time too, because I've struggled with it for so long. I think so many struggle with it as well. The having to say no, and the meaning around no, and all of the energy and negativity around no. So I think even yesterday, having it kind of come up for me where I had to say no, like I can't record today, and like how that still brought up uncomfortable feelings for me, like not wanting to let you down, not wanting to let fans down, not wanting to be like, and I just thought that was really interesting how it came up yesterday before we're supposed to record today. So having people around me like Shawi who understands that saying no is actually sacred
Mm-hmm.
is really important. That, it was just beautiful for me to experience that yesterday. And I really sat with it all day while I was feeling sorry for myself on the couch.
And you know what's so interesting already? Your language, having to say no.
Yeah.
Like that already is like it's something that I have to do that I don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
Isn't it just so interesting the connotation around one very simple two-letter
Word.
word?
Yeah, it's like
Just a word. Two
I
letters.
just I Wayne Dyer talks about the no. Like he talks about how no kid likes to be told no. No one likes to hear the word no. As kids, we say no and they throw themselves on the floor and they have a tantrum. And, kids don't want to be put in a box. They don't want to be fenced in. They want to be fully expressing themselves. And that's the key is that by saying no, you are fully expressing yourself. And I think that's kind of like something that I'm still working on because my no, going from yes, 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 being a yes girl to
Mm-hmm.
it was like a phase of like yes, yes, yes to then no because or no with the having to explain and
No,
over
but
explain. Yeah. So now I think it's just explain it into a way where it's like, hey, I'm not really feeling into that right now. It's not for me right now. It's not resonating right now. It's being honest in a beautiful, respectful way where actually saying no is I feel like it's that like when you say no, you actually put in I had this really weird vision how when you have like visions of how you see it is
Mhm.
I've got an electric car. And when it goes below 50%, when you let your foot off the accelerator, battery power goes back in to the car. And I was driving it the other day and I thought that's what it feels like is that when you say no, it's putting power back into you. So it's like when you don't say no, you're giving power away, which you're driving. But then when you do say no, the energy is restoring back into your body because how many times have you said no and been sat with it for hours going, oh, I'm cringing, like, oh, should I have gone? Should I have said that? Did I want to do that? And it's about what you want and what you desire is. Like you said, I'm saying because I had to say no. No, like I wanted to say no, and it comes from that. If it comes from that aligned state, is just that's how I saw it in the car. Like you put in that power back into your body.
And even further than that, when your no is from truth and authenticity, not only are you giving yourself power, but you're also gifting power to the other person because you're gifting them your authenticity. You're gifting them your truth. You're standing in that, regardless of what the response is in that, you are empowering the whole conversation by being in there. And like you were saying before, yes, no's got a big charge to it. However, the no can be articulated in a way that is very clear of these are my feelings, these are my needs, and this is where I'm at, which is actually what you did in that conversation. you were like, this is where I'm at in my health. And, and I came back with your health is the most important thing ever,
Yeah.
and it's this, I think that people go, I can't say no because of, and it's like, well, let's be curious about gifting some language, first of all, but also diluting what you're making that mean either about you or about the situation or about the other person, right?
Yeah.
And once we dismantle that, then it's only from truth, love, authenticity. So you can't fuck it up.
Yeah.
you know Hey, do you want to know an interesting fact about the word no? Well, it's fact, it's me, but about the word no.
Go on.
No was my first word.
Was a kid. No.
Yep, it was my first word. And so my dad was like a solo dad for the first, like, from about 8 months old until he met my stepmom when I was 2. So those whole like early toddler years, because that was really early, like walking and talking and everything. And he would be like, okay, time to go to sleep now, shall we? And I would be like, nope. It's the only word I knew how to say. So he'd drive me round and around like the block in his car trying to get me to sleep.
Oh my God,
But
that's so
isn't that
funny.
how interesting is that in this conversation? It's not many people whose first word is no, but it's almost like, that little soul in that body was just like, I want to have a say in my life, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Speak your
and this
truth.
is the way
Yeah.
that I have just interpreted that I am able to have a say in my life is this one word. And so what do? I use that one word. Isn't that
That's
interesting?
interesting. I mean, like, I've just had some time with my niece who's just turned 3, and you ask her to do something, no. And like, and what I find interesting is how many parents, and this isn't to shame any parents because my parents did it with me. I'm sure I'll probably do it with my future children. I do it with my stepkids sometimes. We're not perfect. We try our best. But
Mm.
I notice it in a lot of, like, I'm watching my sister and my mom and stuff like that. Like, you see it where they say no because they don't want to do something, and then they're punished for that. They're punished for saying no. They're punished
Speaking
for
their truth.
speaking the truth. So what happens over time in those first 7 years, obviously that's the most important time of conditioning, is
Mm-hmm.
you say to yourself as a child, saying no isn't safe. Saying no isn't safe. And that becomes your mantra. If I say no, I'm going to be punished. If I say no, I'll be alone. If I say no, I'm going to be shouted at. If I say no, I'm going to lose friends. If I say no, I'll be alone. So I think it's realizing that actually saying no is saying yes to yourself. It's that flip
Mm-hmm.
of it, isn't it? It's the flip of actually it's just a 2-letter word, no, and it has so much meaning. Like you said, it's got so much. How many times, I can't even count on one hand how many times someone has asked me to do something and I've just said no because that's so uncomfortable for me. I remember, actually, Chris won't mind me sharing this because I told him I was talking about the sacred no. He was triggered a couple of weeks ago because I was trying to move into boundaries because of what was coming up for me at the time. And he was overwhelmed with his workload, and I had a lot going on as well. And I remember he needed help with social media, and it was like 7:30 and I had to take the kids to school. And he asked me, he said, can you, instead of saying what he actually wanted, he said, can you help me with social media? And I said, not right now. And he took that as a no. And that triggered him because of obviously
Mm-hmm.
his own inner world and his own inner
Mm-hmm.
trauma. And it's funny
Mm-hmm.
how he interpreted it in his own head, because when we came back around to talk about it, I knew it had triggered him in the moment. Like, in the instant moment, I knew by saying not right now, I was rejecting his needs. And we spoke about it that day, and he said, you said no. I said, no, I didn't say no. I said, I actually said not right now. There's a big difference there. There's a no and there's a not right now. Meaning, I wasn't able to help you right there and then because I was getting kids ready for school. You were overwhelmed because you had that deadline. But if you'd have just said to me something like, this is why language is important in communication. If he'd had said to me, hey babe, I just need help with this posting this TikTok video. Have you got 5 minutes? Sure, babe. I've got 5 minutes. But when you ask me, can you help with social media? In my head, I go, oh, that's like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and that takes time. So we had that little chat, and we actually laughed about it because I was like, see how his little child in him said, she said no to me. And I said, but I didn't say no, I just said not right now. And it was really empowering for me, but also empowering for Chris because he then thought, well, that was triggering for me and why. So it was really interesting how the word no can trigger people. And I've never, never, ever just been asked to do something and I've just said no, I've gone into straight people pleasing of like, well, I don't know right now. Can I get back to you? You know, things like that.
Um, I have just spent the weekend doing the nonviolent communication course, and there's like so many things that just came that example, which is so amazing. There's like two elements to it, right? When we are speaking our truth and when we are saying a not a yes, whatever that not a yes is. There's like two different parts that could have been, and it's all could have, and this is how we learn. And asking for requests, like needs-based requests, having specificity in those is so important, like you just said, like being as specific as we can and asking and in our requests for our needs, but also in the response, like in the no, like I can hear you have a need for this right now. And blah, 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 blah. It's like there's so many little tweaks that we don't know unless we know, right? And in this whole conversation around, creating safe spaces for communication to be clear when it is the uncomfortable communication and it's not the stuff that we want to hear, because we probably have an attachment to what we want to hear, which is based on a need. And so it's kind of like breaking down the things and going, all right, so what is that person actually saying that they need? And then we know when it's a specific request. And then we can say like either, honoring their need, but also being able to say like you did, but he didn't hear the bit where you're honoring his need. Of like, right now, I don't have half an hour at 5 p.m. Let's have a chat. Let's see if we can do it. And it's that I think it's a really helpful tool when we are in that saying no in whatever capacity that is, to go in with solution-based mindset though, right? Like not shut down, but like solution-based mindset of like, all right, so if it is a no, we can, if there is another option, we can then offer that instead. But it has to be an option we want. Because
Yes.
people like offer things and I'm like, you don't even want to do that. Why are you offering that instead of
Yeah.
it's like, no, like it's only offer things that are true to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's like, hey, look, thank you so much for expressing that, you wanted some support in this. I can hear you've got a need to be seen, to be heard, to be respected, whatever it is. That's not within my capacity right now. And let me know if there's another way I can help or whatever it is. And it's just nuances, right? It is communication, it is nuances. It's realizing that what somebody is saying and what you're hearing are most likely different things. So
Yeah.
the more clear that we become in it, the more that we understand each other and the more we come up with tools so the no can be solid, but in a really healthy way that kind of respects everyone involved. Yeah.
I love
Oh
that.
gosh.
Well, it's
Yeah.
so there's two things. People reach out to me all the time, and like I've got friends who say they really find it hard to set boundaries and say no and things like that, because no is a boundary. And you
Mm-hmm.
think about no in both kind of opportunities of like you saying no and someone saying no to you and how different they feel. So if someone was to say no to me now, I don't take it like I used to be like, oh God, do they not like me? Have I done something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I found it easier to work on someone else's no. So if someone else was like, no, I can't right now, or no, I can't chat right now, can we talk later? Or I just no, I don't take it to heart like I used to because I was just such an insecure
Yeah.
little like girl when I was younger. But it's interesting how you flip it. And when it comes to me saying no, I am getting better at it for sure. But I think also, like you said, with language and communication, how many times do we just say no, full stop?
Mm-hmm.
Because
And then wait,
yeah,
like
like
no,
does
and
there need to
wait.
be an explanation? Does there need to be added information onto that? Is it the question that was answered? I mean, there's just there's so many layers to it, I think, and there's so many people struggle with the no. They struggle with saying no, and then there's the other element of, are you saying no from a place of fear, or are you saying no from a
Absolutely.
place of empowerment? Because the amount of times, like when
Oh
I was
yeah.
going through a hard time when I was separated from Chris, my friends wanted me to go out and do stuff, and some days I was in a really depressive state because I was just
Mm-hmm.
sad, or things were coming up for me, and I'd be like, no, because I was in I was in dorsal. I wanted to freeze. I wanted to dissociate from everybody. And I remember feeling that way. It was a reflection. One of my modules that in my degree I did was like, whenever you felt that real deep dorsal and how like I was so numb. I just couldn't feel. I just wanted to just like shut myself off, come off social media, shut my bedroom door, not speak to anybody, and just dissociate with life. And I think that's where is the no going to serve you? Is the no serving you, or is the no actually pulling you away from? Is it making you go into dorsal or parasympathetic? You got to then, that's where nervous system comes in. When you say
Mhm.
no, how, like when I say no to someone, when I say no to someone, my heart starts to race. I'm like, oh my God, oh, and then you can feel it, the nervous system's like you just going, oh, into just a panic state. And then now it's less like I sit with it. For example, how many times have we just like rushed to be like, no, or like, yeah, or whatever. Like you said just before, shall we? Like, how many times can we just sit with a question? Because we feel like we have to
Mhm.
rush our answers, don't we? Like, if someone was to ask me something and I didn't know what I wanted to answer yet, I've been getting into that real presence around it doesn't have to be a now. Because I remember like going through a
Nope.
stage of,
Unless it's an emergency,
yeah,
nothing has
yeah,
to be a right now. And
yeah,
people so desperately want to like fill up that space and it's like nothing has to be unless it is like these decisions have to be made right this
yeah.
moment. It is always a can I please have some space to just have a think about
Oh,
that?
yeah. I love that. I love
Oh,
saying
like
that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that you're coming to me with this. I'll just make sure I get some clarity around it so I can make an informed decision when I come back to you. Like, and that's respectful and that's honoring and it's giving you some space. I think people are like, and you know why? Because they are often people want to avoid and really get it over and done with, like whatever
It's the
their perceived,
uncomfortableness.
the
Yeah, yeah,
perceive and the perception of conflict when it's not conflict, it's conversation and negotiation.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember going through a stage of probably 10 years ago now. I joined a network company, like network marketing company where you sold products. I used to love joining them because you meet some amazing
Mm,
people and you got free products to,
yeah.
try out. I used to love it. And I remember going on some of the trainings, and the trainings were basically like sales marketing and how like, and I want to bring this up because it's been something that I've seen and witnessed and been a part of, but never engaged in it because it was never resonating with me. I remember doing the network marketing at the time, and they would kind of teach you how to, salesly get people to buy from you. And that never
Mhm.
sat right with me. If someone says no, go into the depth of why it's a no. Is it, and I thought, well, and if someone's saying no, that's a boundary and you gotta respect the boundary. And then as I come into the coaching world, probably 24, 25, I was like 7, 8 years ago. I remember like, hiring my first coach. And I was so excited. And it was like, okay, I'm going to be this coach, this life coach. I'm going to help people because it's my main purpose in life. And I remember, and this is no judgment to the coach at the time because she was going through her own stuff. I still follow her now. She's great. It's just how she was being taught was then being taught for me. And it was around if I asked someone like, hey, Shawi, how are you? Just checking in, how's life? There was just a script to follow. And I was like, okay, it's me being new to the coaching world. I was like, okay, this must be the norm. So I just kind of rolled with it, being a bit of more of a people pleaser at the time, going through like, okay, yes, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, going through whatever. And then it was a script, and I was reading the script one night, and I was like, okay, so, and it was like a bit of a tree. If they say yes, da 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 da, and if they say no. And I remember they taught you if if a potential client would say you got them on a call 15 minutes and they said no at the end because it was so scary to ask them, do you want to work with me? And you'd be like, oh my God, I'm asking them, do you want to work with me? Like now it's like so easy because I'm just like the right people will find me. Back then it was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done, being on a 50-minute call with a stranger wanting to help them, thinking, who am I to help them? Who hell is Pip? Like this imposter syndrome. And then having them say
And then
no.
triggering a rejection trigger
Yeah.
at the same
And then having them say, here's the script for when they say no. And I was like,
time.
okay. And I'd read this and I could never do it. I could never, ever do it. And I don't know why, but I remember the script saying, if they say no and ask them why, and they'll say, I can't afford it right now, because that's mostly the answer that they would give. Then you tap into that fear. And I'm like, that is mind controlling. That is what's the word I was going to use? That's kind of like what's the word? I can't think of the word, but it's like it didn't resonate with me. I was like, if someone's saying no because they can't afford it, like how I operate now is, hey, if it's really important to you, let's make something work. You know, what can you afford? What is your budget? Can I give you a free session? Because it's different now. Like everyone, some people
Solution
can
based.
afford it. Yeah. But back then, having to do that script, I remember finding the script on my drive at the weekend when I was doing the cleanup. I told you I did a cleanup at the weekend on my
Mm-hmm.
drive. And I remember finding the scripts on my Google Drive and I cringed so hard. And I was
Mm.
like, I get that was kind of the coaching world back then. That's why the coaching world started to get that bad reputation because it was all about the script and working on the the subconscious and why they're saying no and what the fears are around. I'm like, how can we not just respect someone's no? If someone wants to
Mm.
work with you, if someone feels a call to work with you, they will find you and they will say yes. And if they don't want to, because they have fears around money, I'm not going to force them. That's the word I was going to use. It was forceful. It was like forced upon them. I'm like, nah, no, no. So I bring that up because I found it at the weekend and it was around the no, clients saying no and actually honoring them for saying no, even if they had to explain why, like, oh no, I can't afford it right now. Or no, I've got too much going on, like, thanks for the call. Respecting that boundary, respecting that no, like, oh, great, thank you. I'm here if you need if you got any questions, it's like so much came up around that and I just cringed at the weekend when I read the script. I was like, oh my God, but it's probably still being taught right now because sales is like around the world, but the the word no is sacred and it, like I said, it brings that power back into your life. It's an act of self-care, it's an act of self-love as we bleed into last week's topic, self-love. Like saying no is one of the most honorable things you can do for yourself if it's coming from a place of power, not fear, because
Yeah, and that's the part though, right? That we need to really make sure we're using discernment over in this conversation. And
yeah,
I love what you were saying around that respecting a stranger you've spent 15 minutes with. However, when you have developed a safe, trusting relationship with, say, a coaching environment, it is actually our job to be able to notice when their no is not coming from love and it's coming from fear. So there is also that responsibility for, people in our spaces. Like I had a coaching call with my client on Sunday night. We've got a great relationship. I do weekly coaching sessions with them. And I'm pretty brutal is not the right word. I very lovingly call him out on his bullshit.
yeah,
And he loves me for it. And that is why he works with me, because I am able to see when his no is actually not a sacred no.
yeah,
However, being able to do that and hold that space for other people, you have to know it in yourself. Like if I was still in my bullshit stories and I wasn't honoring my no and being able to do that, then you can't even have discernment about what's happening outside of you. And it really only is in that example. I think unless you're skilled in it and you have the relationship with someone, then you can start to, same with our children. We know when their no is actually not for their highest good, but it's
yeah,
all in the way that we approach it. And it's all in that way of like the sacredness around our boundaries, yes. But it's that thing of like, is this truly for someone, or is this keep trying to keep them in survival? And the example you were talking about from that period of time about Chris is like, yes, those no's were, they were not to your best, but it was a survival no. Like that was trying to keep you safe. The no was trying to keep you safe because your capacity was not very much, right? So the no is often trying to keep us safe. It just depends on how much we've created healthy behavioral patterns around safety, or we're perpetuating shitty cycles around safety. And it comes back to all of this work, this inner work, nervous system work, trauma work, because it becomes so much easier, and the more that we do this, the more that we can feel the resonance of a no that's true and the resonance of a no that's not true, right?
mm,
And that's why this, connection to body, connection to self is so important. And it's like there's a great question that was in my MVC course in the weekend and that's a really nice thing to feel into if you've still got that resistance maybe into the no, like what is that no creating for a space of yes? So what are you saying yes to by saying no to that thing? And that's a great way to look at it. Okay, so by saying no to this friend wanting to catch up with me who I know has got a lot of shit going on, but that conversation I'm probably going to have with her is just her offloading a lot. That's not really going to be healthy for either of us. Okay, if I say no to that, what am I saying yes to? I'm saying yes to my own self-care. I'm saying yes to also honoring today in our friendship, but also I can take some time, do some reflection, and then touch base and be like, hey, at the end of the week, when I've got more capacity, and also when, I've been able to honor myself, what are we saying yes to? Also saying yes to her being able to put safe boundaries in place because we're modeling it. So it's like, what needs are we meeting? What are we saying yes to in our no? And it's a really nice way to just feel a bit more
Yeah.
lightness because every no is a yes to something.
Yeah.
Like every single one of them is a saying yes to something when it's coming from that place of truth, right?
Yeah. I'm feeling listeners asking this question when they listen to this. I'm going to ask it to you first, as though I'm a fan listening to this. Hey, Showy and Pip, why do I find it so hard to say no?
Yeah, awesome. Pretty easy reply to that. A lot of us are in fawn response.
Mm.
So a lot of people have been conditioned, and it is one of the lesser known, like, even in the NVC course, which was great, when she was talking about trauma responses, she was fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and there's no
Even my
fawn.
teachers, like she mentions form, but it's not taught in the mainstream. So that's why she
Yeah.
brings it up, but it's
Yeah.
not spoken about enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So fawn response is essentially people pleasing. So if you have been, particularly in the early years, in an environment where the safest thing for you to do, remember we're hardwired for safety, was to please the needs of other people in order to try and keep yourself safe, that is then developed as a habit. And a really um, prominent example of fawn response is in our younger years when either of our caregivers, one, all, of our caregivers, the adults around us, were not safe and stable in themselves, or were not a safe emotional place or physical place, what we do as a young child, remember survival, instead of seeing the flaws in the adults around us, which would actually be a threat to our survival. So it would be a threat to our young person core human needs, basic needs. If the adults around us, there is something wrong with them. So instead of that, we then think there's something wrong with us because that is the safest thing to do for our survival. So we think there must be something wrong with us. And so the best way for us to keep ourselves safe is to say yes to the adults around us, the people around us, and try and please them, because then it means that I'm going to be the safest, right?
Yeah.
Fawn response. And
Yeah,
fawn response is
makes
super
sense.
prevalent, and it's a nervous system response. It's a patterning that has often occurred in our earlier years.
Yeah.
And then it carries on if we're not aware of it. And the other thing with this fawn response and this like not wanting to say no is this being, and obviously this is a woman podcast, it comes into other genders too, but with women is like being the nice girl, being the
Yeah.
good girl.
The good
And
girl.
we
That's
actually,
me.
we hardwire it into like, I'm so nice. I'm
Yeah.
so nice. I help everyone. And then
Yeah.
our whole identity starts to shift into being the person that helps everyone, being the person that's always there for everyone, being the person that people can come to, and you just say yes. And you know what happens? When that becomes part of our identity, then if we start to realize what is happening, and this is what happens when we start doing this work, we have to realize that part of our identity is wrapped up in that. And what happens in the body when we know that we have to kill part of our identity? It feels like death.
Yeah.
Again, survival. So survival instinct comes on. It's like, no, we can't look at this part of us. We can't look at this thing because this is part of our identity now. Who the fuck am I if I realize I'm in fawn response? If I realize I'm pleasing other people's needs? If I'm
Yeah.
realizing I put other people ahead of me? And so again, we have to reprogram survival, because that is then what has been conditioned into us. And again, that's why this work is so important. And so it's and this is the thing, it can get wrapped up and can be really subtle, and it can really go undercover. And then what else happens is then resentment builds up. And we're
Yeah.
perpetuating a cycle of resent. We're perpetuating a cycle of I'm not important. We're perpetuating a cycle of everyone is more important than me. And I say this with love, like I'm really saying this with love. And this is, I am a recovered people pleaser. Like, and this is,
I'm
I
still
was that.
kind of getting there. Like I'm
Yeah.
almost at the tail end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll give a great example of how fawn response came up with me a few months ago. It is not very often that I go into fawn response. Very, very rarely actually now in my life. And it's like a sexy example, so I'm gonna like change the energy a little bit. But it was fascinating. Okay. So I was with a lover at the time, a man that I was seeing. And we used to explore really quite intensely kink spaces together. And it was a lot of self-development, and it was a really safe space. We were safe with one another, great communication. And we one evening, we'd been having sex for about 6 hours. We used to have these very long like sessions together, and so we were like deep in it, right? And it was all the stuff, and he held the space really well, and also we didn't have an attachment to orgasm. You know, I'm super orgasmic, so I know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But also he's not attached to it. All of it he loves. You know, he loves my pleasure, and I'm not. I don't see him anymore. But I had this moment where like it was still sexy and everything like that, but I had this reaction, of course, because we're in sexual energy, and sexual energy is healing energy, right? And so I start to have this moment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just want to please him, and I just want him to feel good, and I just want him to come, and I was like, and I could like feel it, and I was like, and like it's so important, it's more important than my pleasure. I started having that, and I was like, whoa, and he was great. He was like, what's happening? And then I just like kind of went inward, and I just started like gently bringing like gentle touch into my body and starting to breathe. And I was noticing, and I didn't try and avoid the thoughts that were coming in. I was just witnessing them, and they were coming, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is really interesting. You know, it's been a long time since I've had these thoughts come in, and I stayed with them, and I let them move through my body, you know. And then he said, what do you need? And I said, can you just sit behind me and just place your hands on my shoulders right now? I'm just going to like spend some time in this, and then I'll let you know what's going on. He's like, great, thank you. And we stayed in it, and then I spoke to him about it. And like, and even when I said it, because I'd worked through it, it moved through my body. I allowed the trauma response to move through my body. And then I said to him, I was like, this is going to sound so fucking silly. He's like, what is that? So, you know how I've been having sex for like 6 hours? He's like, yeah. I was like, I just had this fawn response come in, this people pleasing come in. He's like, what? He's like, I'm in so much pleasure. Like,
That's so
and I
funny.
said, I know, like, how interesting though. And obviously it was in this container because there was so much energy and healing happening. I'd reached this extra layer that was subtle, but it had still been sitting there, you know, underneath. And it's not often it comes up. But it's so fascinating when we can start to witness, you know, and see that, and be really gentle and compassionate, and go, this part of me is trying to keep me safe,
Yeah.
and it is also not serving me.
I love that. Thank
And
you for sharing it. Like you've just switched the energy up to sexual energy,
yeah.
which is great. It's where I feel most comfortable. So think about how many women find it hard to say no to their partners sexually.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, the guilt around not tonight, babe, I'm tired, or not tonight, babe, I'm not feeling it. And just the guilt and the shame around saying no, and having a partner that, I mean, it's like I said to you the other week, it's really, I will say no to Chris because I'm always in that energy. Like we've got high libidos, but there are some nights where I'm like, not tonight. And the thing is with Chris, he's very respectful of that. He's like, okay, babe. And it doesn't always have to be like, there's this pressure around sex needs to be orgasms,
Mm-hmm.
sex needs to be,
Mm-hmm.
penetration, sex needs to be this or that. It's like, can't you just kiss and touch, or can't you do oral, or can't you just, there's so many layers to it that I don't think a lot of people understand because they've not gone to those levels themselves with themselves. It's so funny. Chris, again, won't mind me sharing this. One morning I woke up just before him, and I was thinking of what I wanted. I wanted him to play with me. And I was like, oh, I just want him to just turn over when he wakes up and just like play with me. And he did. I didn't even have to ask him. It's like, because like, it's so funny because then he does the same. And it's like, we're just so connected that way. Like, he just knows what I need. And I
But
think,
it's also the energy you'll be in when you're
yeah,
in that space. Because imagine if you were thinking, oh, like I wish that we'd have some intimacy in the morning, but it's not going to happen because he's going to be like this. Like the person that is lying right next to your nervous system, that is lying right next to you in bed, they're not going to feel like they want to do that. They can feel this like fear, like resistance energy sitting there.
oh,
Like I
yeah,
would never want to go in an intimacy space with someone like that, or an energy like that, not someone, because it's not
yeah.
the person. Yeah.
Yeah, it's having
Mm.
that respect, isn't it? I think that's one of the big things is like when we say no, it's having the respect. It's a respect around the no, isn't it? Like
Mhm.
when you think of the word sacred, you
Mm.
think respectful, you think
Mm.
sacred, like it's when I think of sacred, when I think of the word sacred, it takes me back to when I was in Thailand and we go into all the sacred temples and stuff, and they would say you got to take off your shoes. And like there's no like why. It's just a knowing of this is a sacred place. Like, so again, this is the vision that
Mm.
I'm having is like, so you go, I remember being in Thailand and I just wanted to go in these temples and just sit with my legs crossed and just feel the energy there and just, just witness and just be in that sacred space. But when you're told to take your shoes off and you don't question why, you don't question like what, well, I'm not to take my shoes off. There's no buts or ifs around it. It's a sacred place. So why can't the sacred no be the same? It's like imagine the sacred no is a temple. I'm gonna take my
Mm.
shoes off before that. I'm trying to like say, trying to put the thing together.
Yeah.
Like if someone says no, treat it like a temple. Be like, okay, I'm gonna take my
Mm.
shoes off. Okay, I'm gonna respect that and seeing it
Mm.
that way. And I think what you mentioned before as well, Shah, was like with parents and how it's conditioned in us if we don't witness our parents saying no, if our parents aren't good at saying no, like for me, my dad was always a yes. So I would go to mum and mum
Mm.
would say no, and I'd go to dad. So I became a daddy's girl because dad would always say yes to
Ah,
me.
how interesting.
So
Uh-huh.
I had this chat with my parents when they were here. I was like, because
Mhm.
I remember this again, a powerful story I'll share really quickly was me and my mum always had a disconnect growing up. And I don't know why, but as I got into like my 20s, I was like, why have I always been close to my dad? And I started to get really curious. I love the word curious because when you get curious, you start to find things out and you heal. And I
Yeah.
was like, why have I got this? Like, why am I closer to my dad? And it was at first I thought it's this father-daughter thing because boys are close to the mums. And I thought, well, that's a collective conditioning where I think that can
Totally.
be true, but it can be both. Like, why can't you be close to both?
Sure
Anyway,
thing.
and I remember thinking to myself, why I've got this disconnect with mum. So as I started to learn about the nervous system and the trauma, very early
Mm.
days, this is about 7 years ago. My mum had a really crappy relationship with her dad, my granddad. Loved my granddad. He loved me and my sister, but with his kids, he was quite abusive. So mum had a very, very difficult childhood with her dad. And there was two elements to this. There was an element of when I was born, I was 3 weeks early and I was classed as premature. I was only 5 pounds. So the first touch I got was with dad. My mum
Mm.
couldn't touch me for about 6 hours because she'd had cesarean and she had some blood pressure stuff going on. So anyway, she was just I didn't get that full skin on skin with mum at first, which is very, very I remember crying when I told her that. I asked her a question. I said, Mum, did you get skin on skin with me when I was first born? She went, No, no, it was your dad because you were early and premature. I had cesarean, a few complications. And I was like, and it made her cry, and we just hugged it out, and that was very healing. That was like a long time ago, like 7 years ago. And then as it grew, I was like, why is mum like, I just noticed there was something like, again, still something there. And I realized my mum never had the chance to have that daddy's girl energy. And she's witnessed one, maybe kind of my sister as well, but especially her firstborn being a daddy's girl and how that must have
Yeah.
felt for her in a child, even
Yeah.
though they don't know about all
That
this, they
why
know
not
bits of
me?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I never
Yeah.
had that, that resentment comes up in our kids and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
sometimes normal for us to feel. And when I
Yeah.
when I told her
Absolutely.
about that, it just something just and me and my mum are
Mm.
like that. Like obviously I'm close to both of them. I love
Mm.
my parents so much. Like they're just the best
Mm.
people. And it helped
Mm.
me realize that the more in depth you get, the more in depth you're gonna, start to understand your family and things around you. And there was a reason why I was telling that story. But yeah, it was around they say if you're a people pleaser now, it meant you were a parent pleaser. So that was
Mm.
definitely me. Like I wanted to please my parents, make them proud. I think that's kind of like growing up, even though I didn't need to, like they're proud of me anyway. But I think if we don't witness our parents saying no, because my parents are very kind, very giving. My dad hardly ever says no to me. I remember like I used to go to mum for something, she'd go no, and I go to dad and he'd go, yeah. It was just like, and I'm so again, like what as a child, you go to the parent that says yes. And
Mhm.
my dad was always the softer one, my mum was more of the stricter one because of the different upbringings. But it's interesting how you start to realize that. So it's actually saying no to your children again when it's from the highest good is
Mhm.
actually teaching them to be like, okay, so no is actually safe. So it was just
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
switch of like not witnessing parents saying no, because I was thinking that how many times have I seen my parents say no? That there's such one example came up is like my mum and dad have a lot of like they have this couples of friends in like a circle that they've known since I was born. And my mum's still friends with them all. And they go out for dinners every like month. They'll like do different homes or they'll go out for like different dinners and they all meet up. And my dad was always the one who was taxi, always the one who would pick them up, drop them off. But then they never said no. And I remember as I got older, like in the last few years before I left for New Zealand, I remember like something came up and mum said, "Oh, we'll have to do taxi again." I said, "You don't have to do taxi." I said, Why are you doing taxi?" I said, "Do you want to
Do
do
anything.
taxi?" "Well, not really. We're just doing it because it's easy." I said, "Well, that's the thing is that instead, because my dad does it because it's easier than having to deal with." I said, "Well, no, just drop mum off. You don't have to go and pick up five different households to go to a." So it actually changed once I told them that. I said, "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do."
Nice.
And it was just an
No, you
example of my
don't.
parents, like how I've witnessed that, like people pleasing and how I've
Mm.
become a people pleaser because I wanted to be liked. I've
You
always wanted to be
were,
liked and
you
fit
were
in,
learning not to be.
Yeah, I know. Now it's
Um,
like, I read that quote the other day. It said, I want to be around those people that kindness isn't a strategy. Kindness is just who they are.
mm,
And
mhm,
that's who I am is kindness is just because
mhm,
that's who I am. Like I've
mhm.
always been that way. But people
Not because
pleasing for
it's a
me would
trauma
drain the
response.
life out of me. It would just drain me. I'd
Hmm.
come back and be like, why have I just given my
Mm,
whole identity to someone? I literally felt like
mm,
I'd just stripped off and just gone, here you go. So now
mm,
it's more about I have more energy for me and my family and wanting to grow my family. Like I want to try for a baby and I want to have my own family. It's like that's the energy and that's the priority for me. And you find that when
mm.
you are a people pleaser, the disease in your body, the sickness, it's like it's stuck in the body, like in that constant people pleaser state. It doesn't, it, I remember just feeling like,
Exhausting.
yeah, it's exhausting. I remember feeling
Exhausting. You become
insecure.
resentful.
Yeah,
And again,
insecure.
it's just perpetuating something.
Yeah.
And so like again, like language, like no one like is a people pleaser. People
Mm,
have behaviors and fawn response has been
yeah.
ingrained in them and their systems. But it's like you can become so again wrapped up in the identity of like being something. Because it's serving some kind of need, whether that's healthy or unhealthy, right? There's a really nice, so we've spoken a lot about the no coming outside of us. There's some really nice like tools and concepts just to drop in when we hear no. And it's like when someone is saying no to us, a really nice, what feels good in the body is like, okay, so they're saying no to this because they're saying yes to some kind of need of theirs. Like their no is a yes to something in them. Their no does, I'm not going to make it mean something about me.
Yeah.
Like that's not what is happening here, but their no is for whatever their need is. And so it's like every no is a yes to something else. There is something around like when we hear no, it is really great to ask for context, right? Because, like your example before of social media versus 5 minutes on TikTok, like it is really helpful. We can still honor the no and ask for some context. That's not shutting down someone's no, and us being really clear in our context when we're expressing it as well. Because people, you could like, I could look at a plant and to me it's a plant. To someone else, they know the exact plant that it is. They know where it came from. They know more details about it. To someone else, like it's nothing. Like we have different connotations for everything because we only see through our own lens. And we did this exercise in the course in the weekend where we all said something. This is a great example of it. There were over 30 of us in the course. We all shared something that we'd done that morning before getting there, right? And so mine was like dropping my kids off at sports. And then we all went around and one of us guessed someone else's need based on our core human needs for what they were trying to achieve through doing that action. So some of it was really basic stuff, brushing your teeth, doing, whatever it is, eating some breakfast. One of the over 30 was actually the need that that person was trying to fulfill through that action. So just let that sink in, that we cannot know because we only see through our own lens. But what we can know is that we are all trying to get our needs met. And sometimes that is through the no. And so if we can look at it like that, of like, okay, so for some reason, this is someone trying to get their need met. And that might be in a healthy or an unhealthy way. Like someone's no to us could be them perpetuating an unhealthy pattern that is for that need. But that's not our responsibility. All
Yeah.
is our responsibility, and that feels good, is to go, cool, there's whatever reason is. I don't know what it is. I might know what it is. I can ask for some context, but I can then go, that doesn't need to mean something about me or something about them. I'm not going to then put this lens on someone because they've said no to me about something, just like I'm not going to put a lens on me when I say no to something. It's all about, we're just trying to move through to keep ourselves safe, according to our needs. And when we come from that lens, we're like, it just dilutes the charge that is on these things. And we see each other through a much more compassionate, caring lens, just like the discoveries you made with your mom, of like, her nose to become closer to you was because it was actively bringing up this wound in her. And so she was trying to keep herself safe from not leaning into that wound. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, cool. All right. So if we just see it through that lens of that and because we're talking about boundaries, and very, very important. If somebody is continuing to display behavior, which is completely putting us in emotionally, physical, sexual, mental harm, then that is a absolute fuck no.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to those things, there's no like it's just a fuck no. And when it comes to those things, it's self-love, self-worth, right? Is according to your values, your perimeter of your relationship with this person, whatever it is. If someone is continuously over and over again not honoring your no, what are you perpetuating by staying in a connection with that person?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To
Because
just
that's a bit we
actually,
can control.
yeah, to spin off the no to the yes. So how you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned about like when you say no, what you actually saying yes to in the body or in your life. I'm the type of person that would just say yes to everything. I was always like, yes to this course, yes to this thing, yes to that thing. And it wasn't until I had my human design done, which was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I really recommend it if
Mm-hmm.
you haven't had it done to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It just resonated so much with me. And I remember one of the parts of it said, I want to learn so much. I want to be a part of things. I want to be a part of community. I want to be a part of other people. Like I'm just that I want to be involved in lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people pleasing, want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be a part of everything.
Be involved. Don't want to
Yes.
miss out.
No, FOMO was definitely a thing for me. And I remember the phrase in the breakdown of the human design was, if it's not a heck fuck yes, then no. So when it came to this podcast, it was a fuck yes. And it was,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So imagine like when, like if anyone's listening, you've got this thing going on or like a new relationship and you just feel it. You're like, fuck
Mhm.
yes, this is so good. Or you've got a new career coming in or like a podcast or you want to write a book or whatever it is. And you just, it's bubbling away in you and you can't stop thinking about it. And you
Mhm.
just know it's a fuck yes. There's no like, for me, there's no doubt. There's no like, it's just it's a
Mhm.
fuck yes. Think of it as putting that energy into a no. Like, so
Mhm.
feeling into like what's a fuck yes for you to then being like, that's like you just said, a fuck no. Like, especially like with relationships and stuff. Like people have asked me about that, like how, I just did a post yesterday around when I was 18, 20, and 21. I posted old photos of me, which was quite funny because I haven't done that. And people are like, oh my God, you look so different. And it was like, I was always looking for love. I was always needy. I was so clingy. I was desperate for finding love. I never was in tune with my body. I let guys walk all over me. I used to let guys just like take me on a date, we'd have sex, and he'd ghost me the day after. But there was red flags for me straight off because I didn't listen to fuck no. Like it's actually how much respect do you
But
have for
you could have
yourself?
You couldn't have because you didn't have
Yeah.
that connection to your body.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
this is that you can only tap in to
Yes,
that when you have cultivated that sense of
exactly.
listening to the body.
Yeah. So even like the saying no is super respectful for yourself and how you see
Mm,
yourself. Like you are a fucking
mm,
divine human being who deserves
mm,
happiness because it's your birthright.
mhm,
And if by saying
mhm,
no brings you fucking happiness, then
mhm,
say fuck no. Like
mhm,
that's the element of where I switched was like I felt like no was an anger movement, was a bitchy movement of like actually saying no makes me a bitch and I was scared of losing friends.
mhm,
Actually, the right people around me,
mhm,
when they hear me say no, they respect that no and go, good on you,
mhm.
girl. I respect you know.
Totally.
So when you
Mhm,
respect you know, everyone else around you who is meant to respect you. And if they don't, then it's
mhm,
that. So I wanted to bring those two in, like the fuck yes and the fuck no. See how the difference is. Like we can easily say, fuck yes, that feels good. But then when it comes to no, we're like, oh, we just go into like, oh. So it's put that energy into like whatever you want to say yes to. Okay, we'll put that energy into what you want to say no to as well, because
mhm,
we can't say yes to everything. There's like we can have lots of things in this life. We can manifest everything we want to manifest, but there's some things that we have to say no to make space for the yeses, to make space for those things in our life.
Makes
If you
sense.
say yes to everything, you're going to be like cluttered, like my
So
kitchen
full.
drawer right now that needs decluttering. It's make space for it, make space for it because honestly, when I was saying yes to everything, I thought I was going to explode. It was like a pressure cooker
Yeah,
about to just
yeah.
go,
Mhm,
so that was like the human design saying, oh, go with what's a fuck yes. There should
mhm,
have been like a little slash saying, and also go with what's a fuck no, you
mhm.
know?
So if someone is sitting here right now and they're going, what if I don't know if it's a yes or a no? I'm going to invite you into a practice. Okay. And we're going to do it all together right now. Okay. So everyone that's listening, I am going to ask you to close your eyes, take a few breaths, firstly, and just start paying attention to your body. So doing a bit of a body scan all the way from the top of your head and just becoming aware of your whole body, all the sensations, all of the things that are happening, all the way down through the face, neck, shoulders, down through the shoulders, all the way to arms, hands, fingers, down through the chest, just being aware, not with judgment, with curiosity of how it feels to be in this part of the body, down through the chest, back, stomach, down through the pelvis and the hips, through the legs, all the way to your feet. Okay, becoming completely aware of being in your body, what it feels like. Now, if you have a question or a request that someone has come to you with, or maybe someone you're in a relationship with, or you're in a friendship with, and you're unsure of whether this person, this opportunity, or this request that has come to you, whether it's a yes or a no, I'm just going to ask you. So just stay with this. Completely bring in only into your awareness that person, that question, whatever it is, just completely bringing that into your awareness, completely that bringing it in, know where else you need to be. All of that is there. Your whole awareness is on this particular situation or this person. Now, I'm going to ask you, what happens in the body when we say a yes to this? So if you said yes to this person, this opportunity, this question, whatever it is, just paying attention, what happens in the body if you say yes to it? With absolutely no judgment, just curiosity, pay attention. Is there lightness? Is there heaviness? Is there contraction? Do you feel like you're high or low? Just noticing, are you feeling that sensation anywhere in particular? Are there any emotions that are coming up in that? Okay, take a little while there, let that come in fully. And then take some moments, breathe again, see if you can come back to neutrality. Maybe taking 2 or 3 breaths here. Okay. And then we're going to bring in again that person, the relationship, the question, whatever it is, that opportunity that's come in. It might be a new job, it might be a new relationship, it might be a current relationship, it might be a friendship, it might be something that someone has come to you with and you're just slightly unsure about it. So bringing that in completely fully, again, completely fully. And then if you said no to it, what happens in the body if you say no to that? You're saying no to that. What is happening? Just being aware of it, paying attention. Again, Is there lightness in that? No. Is there heaviness in that? No. Does it feel like contraction, expansion? What kind of emotions are coming up? Is there joy, happiness, sadness, frustration? What's sitting there in that? Just pay attention without needing to make sense of it, without needing to make it make sense. Just listen, because the body knows more than the mind does. Just listen. Okay, and then take some breaths. Then come back. What did you notice? That's all you need to ask. What did you notice and how your body responded to the yes or how it responded to the no? When we go through this process of being curious to what we're feeling in these answers, we get to eliminate the stories in the mind, the patterning, the conditioning. And the more we go into these practices of listening, it makes it easier. And then the fuck yeses and the fuck nos become more prominent and prevalent. But it means in those ones we're a little bit unsure about, ask the body. It
It's
knows.
like take time, presence. Like
Take
that's
time.
what I love that practice.
Time.
Like I've done that loads where
Mm,
it's like,
mm.
what does the yes feel like and what does the no feel like? Especially people have, oh,
Yeah.
I can't decide what to do, or like this
Get
decision's
into it.
impossible. And I say, if you don't need to decide right now, just
Mhm. Mhm.
take time to sit with each answer. What does it look like if you said yes? There's always that path, isn't there?
Mhm.
There's always the
Mhm.
you've
Mhm.
got you are the creator of your own destiny. So if you say, and I think as well, just to elaborate on what you said, Shao, is people get so anxious and worked up about, well, what if I say no and it's the wrong choice? What if I say yes and it was the wrong choice? I say to people, you can never make a wrong choice because every
Can't
choice you make
fuck
in this
up what's meant for
lifetime,
you.
yeah, it's meant for you. Honor every single choice you make.
Mhm.
Like there's some shitty choices I made growing up, like
Mhm.
shitty, like
Me too.
crappy. Honestly, mum and dad were like, oh my God, I got grounded. I made some crappy choices, but it made me Pip today. I get to share those experiences. And I
Absolutely.
fucking love that part of me. Like I put that quote on today about the ghosts of who you were, like they're proud of you
Yeah.
because
Mm.
that made me Pip. I get to share those experiences. Like we're all teenagers at one time. We make stupid decisions. When we're not awake fully, we
Mm.
just we make those decisions. It's part of growing. It's part of being just a human.
Okay. Yeah. And the thing is, the worst case scenario, more than likely,
Yeah.
is not death.
No.
And because if the system feels like it's this big thing, because the system can't differentiate between emotional
Yeah.
unsafety and physical unsafety,
Mm.
it's not death, so it's going to be okay. There's one like piece in this that I feel like we've touched on, but it's really, really important to have people around you that can honor your yes and your no. And it's
Yes.
also really important you cultivate a space within yourself that you can honor people's yeses or nos. I'm going to give you a real life example. Um, I've met a man recently.
Yes.
Um,
I'm still waiting to
and
hear more.
okay, so this man, we were having a conversation and we're planning on seeing each other, and he had wanted to come. He doesn't live where I live. He wanted to come and see me last night. However, I did not finish my day until 9 p.m. And we had been up late messaging the day before, and um he's got a big week ahead, and he's like, I really want to see you, but I'm not sure, like, and just, making sure I get, wellness and everything. And I supported him through the whole thing. I just said to him, hey, look, I'm not going to take your no personally, just so you know. The main priority for my values, like my values are health and wellness, and so it's really important to me that you look after yourself. Same conversation I had with you. And I said, so just like, let's do a check-in later, see how you're feeling. And whatever that is, that's beautiful. Like, I'm not attached to the outcome of it. And it was really great. And it was a no from him, and he said, he's like, oh, like, as much as I want to see you, he's like, I know if I don't get a good sleep today, like I'm traveling for work 3 days, and then I've got, training and all these things. And I celebrated the fuck out of him. Like, I
That's
celebrated his
beautiful.
no. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud of you for honoring yourself. That means more to me. I said, because if it had been an inauthentic yes, I would have known. And an inauthentic yes is a disservice to everyone involved, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it is more important. And this is what I want. I want us all of us, me and you and our whole community, to be part of a movement that is about authenticity,
Yeah.
not what we think we want to hear, not what we think someone should say, like celebrating people's authenticity, even if it is not what would have been the ideal for you, and
Yeah.
it's being like, but if it's their truth, then yes, yay. And like his response, he's like, thank you so much. He was
Mm,
like, I love how I've been able to be in this conversation with you, and the respect around it and the real honoring of my wellness. And like, that's the spaces we want to cultivate, right? When we can
yeah.
eliminate what it means about us in the yes or the no and celebrate people's no's, celebrate people's yeses, because the more we create that, we start to dilute all those stories around like, no is unsafe and no is this. It's like, no can be the best fucking thing. It can be like that no was a green flag for me. That
Yeah.
no, literally, I heard that and I was like, I was more intrigued, more attracted, like more, I felt more respect. There was more authenticity, there's more trust, way more trust
Yeah.
in someone that's actually honoring their own no. And you can trust people more that honor their own no's.
Yeah, just spend a minute just inviting that into relationships. Whoever's listening right
Mm-hmm.
now, like
Yeah.
what we spoke about today and what Shari's just touched on is so important in relationships and friendships too. Like honoring each other and like communicating what is, like because no is a boundary, it is like it's
Yeah.
whereas, find out your partner's limits. That'll be a
Absolutely.
no for her, that'll be a no for him. And it's
Mm-hmm.
respectfully allowing those no's to come up, like you've just said about, like
Mm-hmm.
there's a part of you that probably really wanted to see him and you were gutted that you weren't going to see him. Like I've been in those relationships in the
I
past where I'm like, oh, I won't
I
see him
actually
for 2 weeks.
wasn't.
That's what I'm
No,
saying.
I really didn't have an attachment to it, but I
That's
would
what I'm
have
saying. It's
months
beautiful. Like
ago.
I would have done. Like I would have been like,
Yeah.
oh, but I'll see him again. There was that desperate energy of
Mm.
like, so you
Mm.
beautifully shown how you've just detached from the need for that. Like, so it's
Mm-hmm.
just we actually
Because
don't.
it wasn't about me.
Yeah, I just it's like that. It it shows me how far I've come as well because I always say, and
Yeah.
you ask the perfect question in a relationship. What do you need? We don't
Yeah.
ask each other enough. What do you need? And it's like you just
Yeah.
said to him what he needs, like, oh, I really need a good sleep. And it's like,
Yeah.
and that's
Let's
just
honor
such a
that.
beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
So just bringing that into
Mm.
relationships because when there's like that element of like respect and element of like, I know where that no is going to come from. Like not shaming your partner for saying no or not shaming your
Mm.
friends for saying no, being like you said,
Yeah.
celebrating the no. I know how
Yeah.
hard that was for you to say no today, and I fucking celebrate you. It's like, and
Yeah.
make it the norm.
Absolutely. 100%. Because then you also trust the yeses.
So when will you
If
see him
people are
again?
honoring them.
When are you going to see him?
Sunday.
Oh,
Sunday. Yeah.
I
He
can't
is
wait to
like,
hear
yeah,
about it.
he is coming to see me on
That's a
Sunday.
fuck
Yeah.
yes.
So Monday morning, we might have some good
Juicy
stories.
conversations.
I might be slightly disheveled still. Beautiful. That feels really good.
It does.
And there's like something I want to drop into this is if you're listening to this and you're feeling activated and you're being like, oh fuck, that thing that Shall we said is a trauma response, that's totally me. Babe, it was me too. And it was Pippa too, and we're sharing this because we want to educate. We want to love and support you. There is no shame, there is no judgment. Like there is none of that in this, but we're doing this with love to give you the tools. We're always going to give you the tools, and we might call things out with love, but we're going to give the tools and the space and the care. But this is what we're here to do, is have the really real conversations so that you can live a more fulfilling, peaceful, nourishing life.
Oh,
That's what we want for you.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny because we just dived into this topic and it's gone so fast. I even I've not even heard you joke and I'm like, it'll probably just
I
leave me.
know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not drinking any
Okay.
water. No water for me after that vision I had. I had a vision
Oh,
that Showy took.
yeah.
I had a vision that Showy told me the joke, and she was telling me the joke, I was mid drinking, and I spat the water out everywhere.
Okay.
I already know what
What's
it's gonna be like.
But you already know what the theme is going to be. What's the difference? What's the difference between anal and oral sex?
I don't know.
Oral sex makes your day, anal makes your whole week.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh, that makes me cry when I laugh. That's hilarious.
Yay, we got some
I've
crying
actually
in
got
this
tears on my
episode.
glasses.
There have to be tears every episode, I think, at this point. We've got 100% success rate.
Oh my God.
You asked me to grab a book.
Oh yes. So last week,
Yeah,
if
okay.
you hadn't listened, guys, instead of a question for Shawi, I asked her to just go to a bookshelf and just intuitively pick a book and then open the book and read like something out of the page. And hopefully it will just resonate with some of you today. I'm just like wiping my tears from that joke.
That's what I'm using. Okay, so I sat there and spirit junkie. Great book, by the way, Gabrielle Bernstein, if you haven't read it. Alrighty, here we go. It's gonna be so interesting. Do you want me to go left page or right page?
Up to you.
Okay. Oh. This is so ridiculous. This is a message for me. I can tell straight away. Fuck. Oh, so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. Spirit had a better plan. Though I was super happy being single, Spirit guided me back into a relationship.
Yeah, I remember like before Christmas, you were like, "Oh, I'm single. I'm so happy." Like, and then it's like, boom.
Yeah, that's okay. It gradually becomes clear that I had things to learn by being in a relationship. This is literally what I've just been calling in. There are times in our lives when the finest learning and healing occur while we're on our own, whereas at other times, spirit directs us to the perfect romantic partner for the best growth opportunity. If I
Clearly,
needed a sign.
clearly, that's beautiful.
Oh,
To any
that
single
was
gals out
hilarious.
there, there's probably single girls
Yeah, there you
listening, you
go.
know.
There's your
Yeah.
message. Yeah, be open. Just be open
Open.
and be curious. Yes, you are
Yeah.
whole and complete in yourself 100%, but keep your heart open. There is nothing, I
Maybe.
remember doing a video, there is nothing you can lose from having an open heart in the
No,
world. There is
no.
nothing. There are no risks. Truly, there are not.
So, considering
Okay.
that you're seeing your lover on Sunday, that was this message to today, maybe next week's topic can be about relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am going to end this episode on a poem
Mm.
because
Mm.
I'm in the
Mm.
poem energy right now. And
Mm.
yeah, I've only read it once after writing it, so I might cry, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the garden of the soul, where whispers grow, a sacred seed, the no, begins to show. A simple word, yet mighty in its stand, a guardian of peace in heart and hand, not born of spite, nor angry's fiery hue, but from a well of self-respect so true. It's the boundary line drawn in gentle sand, a testament of strength where I firmly stand. In the chorus of life, where demands flow, the sacred no sings softly, yet it glows. A beacon in the night for boundaries set, a lighthouse for the self in storms beset. It's not denial, but a loving choice, a way to honor the inner voice, to nurture the garden, let personal power grow, embracing the freedom in the sacred no. For in this word a hidden gift does lie, a space for the soul beneath the open sky. In the art of saying no, we find our way to walk in truth in night and day. So cherish this word, let its power unfold. In the sacred no, your story is told. A boundary, a blessing in its sound. In the sacred no, our peace is found. I'm gonna cry. Oh,
Oh.
I love writing poems, and I don't even like. I just said shower before we press record. I'm in a poem energy at the moment, and like poems are really special to me because of
Mm.
my nan. My nan wrote poems
Mm.
like all the time, and they come in and
Mm.
out. Like I'll have months where I don't write poems, and then like they'll just come. I wrote one for shower the other day. They just come like that for
Oh
me.
my God, guys. If I ever if I ever needed like an external place, not that it's need, but I'm getting it just so filled up in such an abundant way as having a Pippa in my life who I wake up and she sends me like a love poem. And I read it and then I started crying and then I read it again and I felt it through my whole body. And I was like, oh my gosh, to have cultivated such deep care and to have such a high quality human like you. I had this moment of, and of this like, oh, this is the love that I deserve, and then this
Yeah.
feels so good. And I received this fully and just this like deep honoring. Oh, it was so beautiful. I felt
Well
like I was being
then,
serenaded.
well, honestly, like you only just told me today about you love poems, and I didn't know that until
I
just today.
know,
We're
I
finding stuff out
love
about each other, and like
it.
but with poems, I'm guided. I don't know if you feel this, Shao. Like when you write poems, it's like you're
100%.
guided from some exterior force. Like I can't even like. I wrote
Mm-hmm.
that poem within 5 minutes. Honestly, Chris says to me, "How'd you write them so fast?" I don't know. They just go bleh.
Flow.
It's like an
Mm-hmm.
intuitive bleh. And then I read them
Mm-hmm.
back, and I'm like, I did not write that. Like it was obviously I did. It came from this like Wayne Dyer talks about this. You let this just higher being,
Uh-huh.
higher just come through me, and I said, instead of doing a quote today, I just was like, maybe a poem would be good. And it came out like that.
Yes.
So I'll post the
Yeah.
poem in the show notes and I'll probably post it on
Yes,
socials as well.
please.
So
Yes, please.
do
So
you have any
beautiful.
requests or questions for me next week?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Your question for next week is, oh, okay, this is a fun one. If you could have chosen your own name, what would it have been?
Oh,
Obviously, we know that we choose our names, but that's a fun one, right? Like, what would you name
yeah.
yourself?
Okay.
Um, okay, and if next week's going to be relationships.
Yeah, I think so. Around relationships. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that'll be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other piece is in one sentence, what is romantic love? That's for you to contemplate and come back with. In one
Romantic
sentence,
love. Okay.
romantic love. Yeah,
Maybe I'll
beautiful.
reply in a poem.
I know.
God.
One very long, beautifully
Yeah.
articulated
Like I'm
sentence.
gonna channel Shakespeare. Come on, Shakespeare.
Yeah. Yeah,
Beautiful
beautiful. Oh,
conversation.
yeah, there's some bloody good pieces in this. Thank you so much. Hey, and also I think I mentioned at the beginning, but thank you to everyone who's been giving us feedback and like telling us, what you've really loved and what's inspired you, and what you're integrating in practices and ideas and stuff since already the episodes that we've launched. Please like keep coming to us. It's just it brings so much light and every time that we have that come in, it inspires us and we're going to be doing this regardless, but it starts to feel as if even more the community is being cultivated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
yeah.
just that,
Bring it on.
yeah, the promise to you, like we promise to bring you beautiful,
Mhm.
powerful, empowering,
Mm.
really, conversations every week. The only thing we ask of you guys is just to leave reviews because it helps to circulate. Like we've just got a notification
Yeah.
that we're ranked 151 within 6 days.
Mhm.
Like, even though we're not doing it for the numbers, we're doing it because we want to reach people. We want to reach the
Great.
masses. We want to reach people far and
Mm.
wide. And your
Mm.
reviews are part of that. And also our Patreon is still available for us to join that community feel, that
Mhm.
tribe. Like if you're listening, you're like, oh, I want to be part of Showy and Pip's tribe. You'll
Mhm.
find like-minded women in there who are on this, similar journey to you. And then this conversation kind of goes on to over there anyway. So it kind of leads into there.
Mhm.
So check out
Mhm.
our Patreon and we'd love to have you in there in that safe, sacred space. Our temple.
Yeah. Temple.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I love you lots.
Awesome,
And
guys.
I'll
I
see
love
you on
you.
Monday.
Yeah. Bye. Mwah, mwah,
Bye,
mwah.
guys.